Good evening. Welcome back to Bert's World, where intelligence meets the inexperienced. I'm your host, Albert. Thank you all for your support on the last episode. This month's episode is taking a lighter tone, but fair warning before we begin. This episode contains spoilers relating to Marvel shows and movies you may not have seen yet. Hope you enjoy. Welcome to Bert's World. We have a full house today, all my friends. I would like for you to give your name and then say DC or Marvel, which is your favorite. We'll start on that side.
All right, so my name is Nick, and I'm going to go with DC.
My name is Emilio, and I'm going to go with DC too, but love the MCU.
My name's Eduardo. I'm going to have to go with the MCU.
My name is Gabriel. I'm going to have to go with DC.
My name's Josh, DC.
Wow. Mostly DC.
We got some haters. It's all right.
Okay. Wait, you were the only Marvel?
I think so.
That's tough.
It is what it is.
That's surprising.
All right, so why Marvel for you then?
Just the movies are the best. I grew up with Spider-Man. Like, I've played all the video games ever since I had a PS2. There was this one game on the PS2. I forgot what it was called. But it was like the graphics were very like comics based.
Mm-hmm.
Like they weren't very realistic as a PS2. Like, you know, it was years ago. But man, I remember like I don't think I ever beat the game, but I would spend hours just swinging around. Like I was so.
I think I know what game
Yeah,
you're
that
talking
was
about.
Ultimate
Yeah.
Spider-Man.
Yeah, Ultimate Spider-Man.
It was Ultimate Spider-Man.
fire.
Dude, that game
That
was
was
so fire, dude.
Yeah.
It was so fire.
Yeah, you got to play like as Venom and stuff too.
Oh my god, I remember
Yeah.
that too. And I think you fight Wolverine or some shit at some point. That's fire.
I don't remember.
All right, starting from this side, why DC?
I grew up on Batman all the time. I love all the Batman movies, and I feel like DC, of course, like in today's time, Marvel kind of makes the better movies, but I feel like DC just has a great way of giving all their characters a better backstory, like more depth than anything Marvel has done, honestly, in my opinion.
How about you?
I'm going to have to say DC because the animated series were a lot better before, in my opinion, than Marvel. The comics are a lot more depth, like he said. Yeah, they're just better in my opinion. But the Marvel movies are so much better nowadays.
Emilio.
Yeah, I guess DC kind of like similar to Josh. Like, I feel like Marvel characters are a little bit too two-dimensional. DC, like the characters are really fleshed out. Like they feel like real people. And it's a little bit grittier, but like the cop-out answer is that the MCU is better now, like obviously.
Yeah, and I kind of have to agree with that. But I mean, I think DC is better just overall because it's just much more, like, it's just darker. Like, a lot of the stories that they get into, like, especially with, like, Batman and stuff, and the stories with, like, Red Hood, where Red Hood was basically Robin before and he got tortured by Joker and basically, like, turned evil and started killing people. Like, it's super, super dark. And that's one of the first comic books that I ever picked up, like, going to the public library in Hialeah. Like, I picked up a Red Hood comic and I was like, whoa, what is this? Like, they're bashing someone's head in and you could see everything. Like, it's crazy. I was like 6 years old. Like, I shouldn't be looking at this. But yeah, and then obviously growing up on Batman and Superman and stuff, like, I have to say that the MCU movies now are probably much better, but you can kind of tell that the quality has kind of dropped in the MCU movies. Like, now they can make anything and people are going to watch it.
Yeah.
So, like, the Eternals movie for me was a huge disappointment. Like, that was honestly just filler. Like, they just put a movie together to put it together. There wasn't really, like, a consistent story. And trying to introduce the Eternals at this point when everything happened, like, in the MCU before, is just, like, it kind of makes no sense.
I really like the Eternals too, because like it was a lot of good backstory on how like Thanos came to be and like the whole like God stuff that happens in MCU.
I guess. And they kind of filled in everything that happened, like, ancient times.
Yeah.
But, like, I feel like just that their explanation of why they didn't interfere with what happened with Thanos was kind of just, like, dumb. Like, how had we never seen the Eternals before? or like had any presence of them.
Well, I haven't watched the movie, so can you like spoil it?
So basically, the Eternals are like these gods, right? So they were created in the beginning of the universe, and they go throughout different galaxies and different planets to create the Celestials. So like the really big robot things that you see. I think they have them in like Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, they do.
So those huge robots. That's basically what they do. They're supposed to help populations reach a certain level of organization or development, and then basically like they grow those Celestials inside the planets, and then eventually the Celestials come out and are born, and they form new galaxies and stuff.
And they were just not around by the time that Thanos was there.
I know they were. I mean, they were there. They were just living on Earth as normal people.
Oh,
They're
so they just didn't want to do anything
Yeah,
about it.
they didn't do anything about it, and they don't explain if they were dusted, like what happened. Like it's just kind of
really? They
like,
didn't
hey,
get
we're
into
here. You know, we've been here this whole time. We've seen everything happen, but you know, can't really do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say like I also have a problem with like MCU movies. Like I've lost stimulation in them, usually because they all like follow the exact same structure. So I could say that like loss in quality throughout the time. Like it's literally always like the same like 3 stages where it's like at first you see the hero, they have their powers. In the middle, they become unsure themselves and lose their powers, but then they get reinvigorated. And then the big final battle. Like that's all Marvel movies.
Yeah.
Like I feel like DC has been a little bit more experimental, and even MCU. If you look at their earlier movies, like the first Iron Man, it's like a little bit different.
Yeah,
So,
that's
like,
what I'm saying.
They
Like
definitely have lost
the beginning movies, it wasn't as like a certain bet for them, because like when they first started Iron Man, Marvel Studios had like no money. They were about to go bankrupt, so they were taking a huge chance on Robert Downey, who was also like a recovering drug addict. He had almost been in prison. Jon Favreau was like an unknown director. Like they were taking a lot of big risks, and they put a lot of effort into that movie, and that's literally what started the MCU. So if it weren't for Iron Man and that whole team coming together, like they would have never gotten to where they are today.
I was gonna speak on the Eternals plot earlier. How it's crazy how they've been around for so long, and like no one in the Avengers ever found out about them. And the idea was that they didn't want a conflict with like a human interest and whatnot. But I mean, there was that one scene, which I thought was probably one of the best scenes in the whole movie. The part where, okay, first of all, there's one of the Eternals that his power is that he can create like some complex machines like easily. And in one scene, he basically introduces like nuclear energy to like humans. And then it cuts to the part where Hiroshima happens, and he's like in the middle of the rubble, and he's like crying because he's like, oh, I did this, whatever. But it's like, okay, like, you know, they can't like interfere with human conflict, but then like he literally did that. Like it doesn't really add up, you know?
I mean, they're supposed to like help him, and especially his role is like providing them with technology. But and like there's another scene in the movie where they're in like ancient times, like in like 1000 BC, and he's like trying to introduce the steam engine to them, and then the other Eternals are like, whoa,
Whoa,
like, too advanced.
show them
for
the wheel.
Yeah, show them the wheel first.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. I felt like the way they played with that, like I felt like the first half of the movie was really good. How they played with all the idea of like them being a part of like real life, you know, things and events that happened. I think they did a great job in that part. It's just, you know, I went into that movie and I was still satisfied because I knew that we're talking about the Eternals. There's 10 different characters. There's no way that in the time interval of 2 hours you're gonna be able to build an amazing movie on 10 different like main characters.
Yeah, that's
There's
true.
just no way you could do that. But I feel like considering, you know, what they were handed to, you know, what they had to deal with, I think they did a pretty good job. You know, it wasn't perfect, but I think they did a pretty decent job.
Also, shout out to Harry Styles at the end. That was cool.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Let's do a quick pivot to like who's your favorite superhero, and we'll start on that side again.
All right, so this is gonna be an unpopular pick, but my favorite superhero of all time is Green Lantern. Just because like no one else is gonna agree with that, but I just thought the whole idea of them with like the rings and being able like to create stuff with their mind, I just thought that was the coolest thing ever. Like if I had to be any of the DC superheroes, I would probably be Green Lantern. And there's like different kind of lanterns, like different colors and stuff based off different emotions. So yeah, I just thought that was super cool. And they had like this whole big storyline where, you know, it was like all the colors coming together and like having a huge war.
Yeah. I guess my take is not as controversial. It's probably like one of the most popular. I'd say mine is Batman. Just because like I think I really love Batman like in the comics and like Detective Batman. hate how they've portrayed the like Batman character in like the latest DC films, because I don't feel like they really like capture like who Batman is supposed to be. But I just like the concept of the fact that like he's a human being and he's like able to like keep up with like Superman, Wonder Woman, and all these people just because like he's like thinking it through and like he sets a plan. So I've always just like really respected that and like the hustle. It's also one of the reasons why I like Iron Man, right? Because it's just like this concept of like guys who have no like natural abilities, but they're just able to use like their intelligence and like being able to plan things out. Like I've always just had so much fun reading those, as opposed to like people who have natural abilities. But yeah.
So I think I kind of answered this earlier, but it is Spider-Man, like of all time. I've always loved Spider-Man. But if we were strictly talking about the MCU, I would have to say Iron Man. I think ever since the first Iron Man all the way to like his ending in Endgame, it was just so well done. And I feel like, you know, hopefully this is not the case, but I don't feel like they're ever going to be able to achieve an actor that was as good as Robert Downey Jr. and just be able to, you know, just change lives in a sense. Because Iron Man was just, he was the best, man. Even his worst movies. I think people would say that Iron Man 3 was pretty bad.
I enjoyed Iron Man 3.
Some people didn't like Iron Man 3, but I felt like Iron Man in general was just amazing. Like, he's one of the best. But, you know what? That brings up another cool topic. Not topic, idea. I think, what's this guy's name? The guy with the patch? Dude, the name is like...
Nick Fury.
Nick Fury, bro. Oh, my God. Nick Fury
Samuel
slept
Jackson.
on. He is slept on.
Yes.
He is such a, like, he's so cool. He's not really like a superhero in a sense.
Yeah.
But he's so, dude, he's amazing. He's amazing. I can't wait to see more of him like in future movies.
You know, he made more money than Robert Downey Jr. Like Samuel Jackson. Like obviously because it's Samuel Jackson, but like Nick Fury's the like most paid actor from the MCU
I bet.
films, which is like
It's
crazy
the
to
same
think
for
about.
Star Wars too.
He always seems like
He's not even the star.
exactly.
Yeah.
He's always been like a minor character, but I looked it up the other day. Like it's just because he's Samuel Jackson, so I'm pretty sure his like agent is crazy.
And actually, in Star Wars 2 for Mace Windu, like he only agreed to do Mace Windu if he could make his lightsaber purple, and they paid him like a bunch of money for it. So he was really expensive for Star Wars 2. Yeah.
I'd have to say that my favorite superhero is Wolverine because his regenerative powers are just so broken and his claws are just so cool. Once he gets all that metal in his body and he just becomes basically a superhuman, he's just basically unstoppable. And when he's in rage mode, he goes crazy. I think he's the best superhero of all time.
For me, it's also Batman. I mean, it's kind of easy pick. I mean, I played all the video games. I saw all the movies. I like almost all the movies. I just like the way that the story is and how they actually give depth to almost every character, every supervillain, and almost every villain is like, yeah, you could kind of laugh at some of them, but almost every villain is strong and can actually like do something. I feel like, I don't know, out of all the superheroes, he just has that one thing to him that's like, since he's human, it's kind of like, yeah, he's different.
Yeah, also just like what you were mentioning, his villains, they're just so like well thought out, bro. Like all his relationships, like Batman's like relationship with the Joker is actually
It's
like
insane.
Like
the whole purpose. I remember I saw like one of the newer comics, and where he sat in this chair, and it's basically a chair of like, you say a question, it'll give you the answer. Any question. You say any question, it'll give you the answer. But you can only ask like 3 questions, something like that. He asked who is the Joker, and he said there's like 3 of them. And then there's like a whole storyline of basically Joker just going up to his face and saying like, bro, you wouldn't exist if I wasn't here. Like you need me.
Yeah.
And it's like the same way I need you. And I love how he plays with him. And even how like every time he's about to like just make it, another like person just messes it up for him. Like it's like almost like and the whole like aura about it, just in New York City, the darkness, the whole theme, how his parents and like he always gets reminded of it, and his past is always like somehow connected to the future.
Yeah.
And how he handles things, it's beautiful.
Shout out Josh, aka Kilu. He makes all the music for the podcast. If you like the beats and the music on here, check his socials in the description.
Yeah.
Honestly,
What's
perfect.
really interesting is like how we relate so much to like Iron Man and Batman, even though they're both like billionaire orphans. Like I was thinking about that the other day. I was like, why are these like some of my favorite heroes? And I have like that's, I also like love Spider-Man as a kid. He was my favorite. But it's like Spider-Man's really easy to relate to, but I don't know why. Like I just like imagine like if Elon Musk started just like fighting crime in like New York. Like,
I mean, at this point, he probably could.
Yeah.
Like honestly.
I feel like the reason why that is so, like a thing is because almost the best superheroes is kind of like the ones that they make you want to root for. Like the best ones, it's like, okay, I want to root for this guy. I want to see him win. Like I want to, like you're kind of like on edge. Like I feel like he has that.
Yeah, like you see Batman going up against like literal gods, like Darkseid and shit, and you're like, bro, I want to see what he's gonna do. Like
Even
honestly,
the whole concept of him versus Superman, you think like,
You're like,
yo,
yeah, he's gonna get his ass
and,
beat.
like the movie wasn't that great, but like even in the comics, you'd be like, yo, this guy would never beat him, and he beats him.
yeah,
You know what it is
Crazy.
about that movie though? That movie wasn't great, but I thought everything about that movie except Batman versus Superman like was amazing. Like the ending of the movie when they fight what's his name? The Abomination?
Yeah,
Is it the Abomination?
Doomsday.
Doomsday. I'm sorry, I always confused. Like, yeah, it's MCU, I think. But yeah, everything about that movie except Batman vs Superman was amazing, in my opinion. Everything was really well done.
Yeah. I think one of the main issues was with that movie is that they tried to do too much. They tried to do too much storytelling and world building. So yeah, they tried to do too much storytelling and world building in one movie. Like the thing with the MCU that I will give to always is that they set up their story in each individual movies. Like you had Iron Man 1, Iron Man 2, and then you had Thor, Captain America, the first Avengers. Like they set up all those stories in different movies, which is good. I mean, they were able to make hella money off of it, and then it made things more consistent. Like it didn't feel so rushed. Like Batman versus Superman tried to be Justice League Part 0.5, and that's where they messed up, because you can't put that much into a 2.5 hour movie. And even with the extended cut, like the 3 hour one that Zack Snyder made, like there's still two, like that would have benefited in being 2 or 3 movies, like having a separate Batman movie. Like they did that with Man of Steel, but Man of Steel was just focused on Superman. So like I think that's where Batman v Superman fell short for everyone. Like they just tried to do too much.
So what would you guys say about, like, what do you guys think DC should do right now? Do you think they should still try to work on building up every other hero to eventually make a Justice League movie and then go on from there, kind of like what Marvel did? Or do you think they should just do what they're doing now, which is making a new Batman, see if it goes crazy, and if it goes crazy, make a trilogy with it or something? Or just like play around with other heroes? I think that's what they should do.
Exactly what they should do. I
think
feel
that's
like there
what they
was
should do.
missing that. I feel like the separate like Batman movies and the anticipation of like building the character, I feel like that's what's actually like was missing. Like how you were saying they try to jam pack it. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Like the movie wasn't that.
It was
kind
rushed.
of like rushed.
Like
It
at
felt
one
rushed.
point you have the Flash coming in, you have Wonder
Right.
Woman that's thrown in there, and then like
Bro, and honestly, it just felt kind of corny. Like
Yeah.
the dialogue was just kind of corny. The plot was a little bit kind of corny. So it was like,
Is that those
the
movies
cut was
are-
great though. The Zack Snyder,
Zack Snyder's a beast.
amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
It was great.
But I was gonna say those movies can never not be corny. Like, they're also kind of meant for kids. Even MCU movies lately have been getting very corny.
Yeah.
in my
Honestly, I
opinion.
feel like they do a way better job.
I actually like kind of disagree with the fact that they always have to be corny. That was like, I think the difference between the Zack Snyder cut and like the regular cut is like in the regular one they try to make it like appeal to everyone, and in the Zack Snyder one like you had a lot more time to be gritty and stuff. I feel like I understand that like yeah they're making movies to market towards everyone, but I'd like to see them take a bit more of a risk with like making it adult. Like Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, and The Dark Knight Rises were all like pretty intense. Like I don't really like I don't want DC to try to emulate Marvel on like the funny quips and stuff, like them trying to be funny, like add all that comedy, because that's not what DC comics are really about. Like DC comics are more about like human exploration and like finding the flaws of people, and I don't really think you get that when you're just trying to make like funny one-liners with each other, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah, that's always been Marvel's thing.
Yeah.
And like Batman Begins scared the shit out of me as a kid. Like this Scarecrow was terrifying. And even The Dark Knight, like with Joker and stuff, that movie was dark. That movie was scary.
I love that movie.
Bane too. Bane
I
was
remember
scary.
in The Dark Knight there was this one scene where they get a fake Batman and they hang him and he just slams on the window.
Yes.
Bro, I was so scared when I watched that as a kid. I was terrified.
Yes.
Why would they put that in a kids movie, bro?
Nah, it was a great scene.
It was great, but it was just like as
But
a
that's-
kid, like
but
that's
you
more
can
dark.
handle
See? Yeah, that's
You
more
can
for
handle
like dark, like.
It's not as MCU-y, as you would say.
I feel like that's probably why I like it so much, just because of that reason.
So then let's move away from movies. What are your favorite like DC or Marvel shows? We'll start on this side. You're not a show person. It's all right.
Yeah, I'm not really a show person. I don't really watch a lot of them. DC, Marvel, The Flash was really good. I'm not really like into that, but it was really just well produced. Probably Batman, like the one that they did the show about it. It was everything like the story before he gets Batman.
The cartoon
was like-
or
No, it was real. It was real life.
Gotham? Gotham?
Yeah, Gotham.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like kind of slow for me at the beginning, but I kind of appreciated it because it was kind of like a side of the story I never seen. So
Yeah, I never really watched any of the shows. I just watched Flash, and I stopped watching it after season 4 or something. But I've never been much of a big superhero show person, so.
I thought Loki was amazing. I thought that was easily the best MCU show I've ever seen. Second place will have to be WandaVision. But Loki was just so well done in general. Like every episode felt like a movie in a sense. And even though I think it was like only 6 episodes long.
Yeah,
It was,
I think
right?
like
Yeah.
6 or something.
But man, like how they built up Kong at the end and just that whole final scene was just, it was amazing. And the after credits and all that, it was great. I loved it.
Yeah, I'd say like Marvel's really knocked it out of the park with these new shows. Like I had my expectations for them were pretty low. I thought it was weird that they were doing a show with like their main characters, but the way that they like expand on the lore is actually insane, and it still is like really really enticing. The DC shows, like the older ones like Arrow, Flash, and Gotham, I think they all were.
loved Arrow.
I think they were all really
Arrow was
good at the
phenomenal.
beginning, and then they
Yeah.
all fell off like so hard.
Yeah.
And I think it's because they gave the rights to CW, and like in general, I don't think CW shows are that great. They're usually like just made for people like flipping like the channels. I wish that they would have put like a little bit more effort into it, and they would have given it to like a better studio, because now that Marvel's doing these new shows, like they're actually like they're great. Like What If? I just finished it. Amazing. I'm not caught up with Hawkeye yet, but I'm sure it'd be good. And
I'd have to say that in terms of DC, they probably have the best animated shows. Like all of the animated Batman movies, and even like Young Justice and stuff, they have a lot of good storytelling for what's supposed to be a kid show. So I mean, I love all the DC animated movies and stuff.
What was good, bro? Teen Titans.
Yeah, I was just
Titans.
thinking about Teen Titans.
Oh, good.
Grew up on Teen Titans. That
No, OG Teen Titans.
Yeah, the OG
Yeah,
Titans.
Go.
Teen Titans Go isn't bad, but the OG
Nah,
is
it's
so much
trash.
better.
I'm
Nah,
sorry.
you tripping.
I'm sorry, Teen Titans was trash.
Teen Titans go.
It's not that bad.
It's not bad, bro.
I like it.
But
The original so much better, though. Much
that in terms of Marvel, the Disney Plus shows have been phenomenal. Production quality has been amazing. Loki was great. WandaVision was great.
Can we agree
What was
that
the
the
other one?
Falcon and Winter Soldier was trash though?
Falcon and Winter Soldier was mid.
It was
I-
so trash. I still don't know what the villain was trying to do. Like I literally still don't know.
I don't know.
I literally don't get it.
I don't think it added that much to the story, but I do look forward, especially to the future projects for the Disney Plus shows. I mean, they have Moon Knight that's coming out. It's gonna be crazy. Even Miss Marvel, I'm pretty excited for, and I think there's a couple more that I'm missing. But What If season 2 is also coming
Yeah.
out. So What If was great, but I honestly like Marvel is just undefeated with the amount of content that they have coming out.
They really are.
Like they're gonna be banking for the next couple of years. Disney's gonna be banking.
Disney is going to be.
As they have been.
I think that's my favorite thing about Marvel. Like, I think the best thing about the shows is just like how much they set up. Like Falcon and Winter Soldier, I will say was a pretty forgettable show, but I think it introduced me to the idea of like the new Captain America. You know what I mean? Like it ties up a lot of things, and I think that's great. That's like I love how Marvel prepares you for the different phases that's
Yeah.
going on. Like the fact that you always know who the big villain is overall. Like you're getting like hints about it like 10 years. Like when were we first introduced to Thanos? Like 10 years ago?
Yeah, first
Yeah.
Avengers. Right at the end of the first Avengers.
All right. Is it okay if I bring up one question? Is that cool? I want to ask you all this.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you guys feel like Kong is gonna be the next big villain, like the next Thanos? I'll answer that first. I don't think it's gonna be him. Cause wouldn't it be kind of lame that they already told us that it's gonna be him? Don't you agree? I mean, in Loki,
Thanos was coming.
No, I understand that, but it's like, for example, when they were teasing Thanos, right? Like they did it after the first Avengers, and it was like, oh wow, who is this purple motherfucker that's grabbing a glove? Like, what the hell's going on? Oh, I guess we'll see him in the next movie. Then the next movie comes around, and it's a robot named Ultron, and it's like, oh, okay, I guess maybe the next one. And then like we don't get Avengers for like a couple other years. We get like a bunch of other movies, like Thor Ragnarok, which was amazing. It was a really good movie too. But they worked on it little by little. Like they didn't straight up just tell us like, hey, this is gonna be the next big thing. Unless like you were like a huge like fan of the comics, like you already knew who Thanos was. You knew that he was gonna be like a big deal. But right now, I really don't feel like it's gonna be Kong. I feel like he will be a big villain. Like he'll be like someone that they're gonna have to deal with at some point. But I don't think it's gonna be him. I have an idea of who I think it might be. But before I say that, I want to like hear you guys' opinions. Like, do you guys think it's gonna be Kong, or do you think it's gonna be someone else?
I mean, I don't think it's gonna be Kang, because I mean, he's gonna be in Ant-Man 3, so I don't see how they would have him as like a major, like the way they set up Thanos was like you knew he was a big bad from the beginning, because they teased him and little by little they kept teasing him until eventually they built up to his like portrayal in Infinity War. And it's kind of weird to think about it now, like who's gonna be the next main villain in like 5 years, because there's not like the story isn't going in one certain direction. Like now you have all this stuff with the multiverse, you have things with different timelines, time travel, like it just complicates things. So like personally what I would like to see is that if they go in like the direction of Secret Wars, which is like this whole big overarching like story thing, or also like Secret Invasion, like the stuff with the scrolls.
Yeah, I think that's gonna be huge since Nick Fury was a Skrull.
Yeah.
Like he has been a whole Skrull for a while now, in the MCU.
And I think they're coming out either with
What's a scroll?
the green people from Captain Marvel.
Yeah, they can like shapeshift.
Yeah, the shapeshifters. So in the comics, like the whole Secret Wars or Secret Invasion was that people in the MCU were being replaced by Skrulls. Like they were basically being copied, and they have the ability to copy their abilities too. So little by little, they started invading like the Avengers and stuff, and then the few heroes that were left had to like fight back and find everyone else. So it's really interesting, and I'm surprised that they didn't do that. But they are making either a show or a movie on Secret Invasion. Yeah. Disney Plus show.
I think that would be a very cool topic to get to. And I personally haven't seen Loki, so I don't really know much about this Kong guy they're talking about. But if it was based off the comics, I think the next big step would be Galactus. And I think that would really bring in a lot of all like the heroes like X-Men, the MCU, they're going to bring in the Fantastic Four. I think that would be like the very next big project, but that's probably not coming for years.
Do you think they'll bring
in Eternals with that too?
Yeah. If you guys remember at the end of Eternals when the Celestial came in and like took the Eternals back to wherever he came from, Arishem. Bro, I would imagine seeing that. Like, dude was bigger than the Earth, and then when like that last scene where you just see him like you see the glowing red eyes just towering, like the whole world went dark. Like, imagine how the people on Earth felt when you see that. Like, that's terrifying. Yo, I'm surprised they didn't address that like in any of the other movies, even like in the shows, like in Hawkeye. Like, I'm assuming that took place after Eternals. Like, no one like realized the giant metallic like alien god in the sky.
Thank you for watching this week's episode. Let me know in the comments if you're a DC or Marvel fan. If you'd like to watch the full episode, you can catch it on Patreon in the next couple of weeks. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. See you next time where I'm inexperienced in the world of French Bulldogs.